Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first webinar series with Opto 22, Inductive Automation's only hardware premier technology provider. This webinar today is supposed to be very useful for you, showing you how integrated Opto 22 hardware and software is. With us today are our panelists. I have Ed Fuentes with Inductive Automation Australia, and Ivor Houston with Binford Tech, our distributor in Australia. I'd like to give it to Ed for him to introduce himself.
Well, thank you very much, Renee. I really appreciate this opportunity to spend some time with you and Ivor, obviously, with what we're going to talk about today. I've been in inductive automation for years now, but a real passion around digital transformation and ability to work and to discuss how technology is really advancing how our manufacturers, how industry is growing. And I've been very fortunate to be riding that wave with Ignition, with inductive automation, and the power of what Ignition is delivering. And not just the product, but the ecosystem you talked about, Renee. So I'm very excited that we're going to talk about how Opto 22 and Ignition really partner up very well in helping customers deliver true digital transformation and really talking about some of the use cases you've developed. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation today. So thank you for allowing me to participate.
No, glad to have you. You're the best, and looking forward to giving some real good examples to engineers here today. Ivor, if you please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ivor. I'm a technical sales consultant at Binford Tech. Binford Tech is a solutions-driven Industry 4.0 innovator. We have over 25 years in the industry, in FMCG, but not only that, but multi-segment automation. We partner with leading manufacturers, not just Australia, but across the Asia Pacific. We deliver advanced automation, smart manufacturing, and digital transformation outcomes. And that experience not just extends to that, but also to smart agriculture and OEM innovation, where we help organizations modernize their operations through things like edge control, IIoT, cloud technologies, smart devices, and next-gen automation techniques. And that, we specialize in doing that, in turning complex challenges into efficient, scalable, and future-ready solutions.
Great. Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us today. Looking forward to having a productive conversation.
Yeah.
So our agenda for today is, first of all, who is Opto 22? I'm sure many of you haven't heard of us. And also, what is Epic and RIO? Next, we're going to move into some real architectures that mutual customers are using with Ignition and Opto 22. Lastly is 6 reasons that inductive automation says why Opto 22 and Ignition are better together. And lastly, we're going to end with 2 case studies that use both Opto 22 and Ignition, of which we'll provide videos, PDFs, as well as web write-ups in great detail should you have any questions. And at the end, we'll open it up to questions and answers. So who is Opto 22? We've been in business for over 50 years. And in fact, on the patent for the solid state relay, you're going to see our founder who started the company in 1974 in Southern California. In that time, we've gone to ship over 100 million physical I/O points all over the world, more than 10,000 customers, best known for our quality support and, of course, our lifetime warranty on our I/O modules. We bring in all of the protocols that are the most useful in your industry, and 2, that have had that market adoption. So they have to be open, they have to be great protocols, great tech stacks, but they also have to be widely adopted. We do all of our manufacturing in Southern California. So this is Opto 22 in Temecula, California. This is where, if you ever come to training, like Ivor's here is coming for a visit in October, you care to join him, here's where our training is, here's where our marketing is, here's where our sales department is. This area has all of our manufacturing. You're looking at dozens of surface mount machines. We send designs and drawings out. We get circuit boards, chips, and out go our Opto 22 Epic and RIO products. So these are the 2 products essentially that we're going to focus on, and the 2 that are Ignition ready. Both of them have ignition and ignition edge pre-installed already in them, and they can both run ignition edge or full ignition. So to simplify things, the one on the left is a 4-core unit, modular. You can put in modules for IO systems. As a touchscreen, you can run ignition panel directly on it, perspective directly on it. And the other is that basically ignition IO is how you can look at it. It can run ignition edge. This is incredibly popular because it has, with it being able to run ignition edge, it can contextualize your data, publish it directly up to a broker where you have a perspective screen that's then visualizing that data. So as I mentioned, here are how the pieces come together. There's no magic to it here. It's a chassis. You choose a power supply, you choose a CPU, and you choose the different modules. And of course, like I said, perspective right there running on this piece of hardware. And don't mind if I'm going quickly. We're recording this session and we'll be sharing it with everyone, so you'll be able to go through the notes as well as some materials you'll take with you regarding our case studies. So in the end, this is a Linux device. This is a quad-core system, 4 gigs of RAM, 22 gigs of solid-state drives, large temperature range, dual gigabit Ethernet, dual USB. It is an IPC plus a PLC plus a screen like an HMI. So now when you're looking at the other device, the RIO, we call the remote IO unit, I wanted to focus on PoE powered because on this unit, you can completely control and power through one Ethernet cable, and then have it even provide all the loop power for the different IO systems that you'll have. You can run ignition edge here. So this now becomes, because this has dual NIC cards, your secure segmented network way of not only contextualizing your data, but protecting it behind this physical firewall while it publishes it up to a broker to then be digested and analyzed with ignition. And here for you to see all the different IO points that are here, they're software configurable. And depending on how you wire them, they can be inputs or outputs, digitals or analogs, current or voltage, thermistor, ICTD, physical contacts, etc. So that, in a nutshell, is what the Epic and RIO products are. We're that hardware bridge where you can run where ignition edge or even full ignition reside in your process that can directly communicate with PLCs, instruments on the OT side, and up to the IT side to Ignition Cloud Edition, like we'll show a demo of here, directly to like Snowflake or other cloud platforms. It is that bridge between IT and OT. So to explain a little bit more, I like architecture. So let me show you here one example in which we're using Ignition Edge as an energy monitoring application. So we'll have these different RIOs that are connecting directly to current transformers and voltage transformers and even digital counters. So we're doing all of the energy analysis this is actually our architecture for the Opto 22 factory. And via MQTT, publishing it to another Opto 22 device. And that one's running Ignition Edge, contextualizing the data, and then transmitting it MQTT up to a broker. It really simple. Please, Ed.
Yeah, Renee, look, that's a really good architecture. And just to remind people as well, the uniqueness about the Ignition licensing model is that it is an unlimited licensing model. So with Ignition Edge installed on those Opto devices, it doesn't restrict you at all as far as how many tags you can consume or how many devices you can connect to. So it really gives you that flexibility, doesn't it, Renee, at that point, with to connect to as many devices as you can, to bring as much data as you can through Ignition Edge or Ignition, as you mentioned, on the Opto 22, to be able to then use that unique licensing model that Ignition offers to ensure that the customers are getting as much data as they can through the software you've got embedded in those in those or installed on those controllers. I think that adds that extra benefit of having that unlimited model there.
It's a great example. And with your unlimited licensing model, then really we become the limitation, we being the hardware. So Opto 22 is a hardware company. So here, what we've looking at Inductive Automation's server sizing, you're looking at this for about 10,000 tags that you're moving with Ignition Edge, and this is more around 300 to 500 tags each. So that gives you a quick ballpark of like how many of these Opto 22 units do I need to put on my different well pads on my different mining sites, on my different pieces of infrastructure, and then you can quickly get to large scale. Where I was going with this was with a single location. It's really simple architecture. We don't charge service fees. We don't any of that. When you purchase a piece of Opto 22 hardware, you own it. All the licenses in it that are not Ignition are included. $0. So that's your CODESYS ID, your CODESYS runtime, Python, Node-RED, MQTT, all of that is there, and there's no recurring model. You own it. If in 1, 2, 7 years, we've made firmware updates to this to include new patches or even new functionality. One of our latest functionalities, we have Docker containers directly in the hardware. You can take an Epic from 2017, flash it with the new firmware that costs you $0, and now you have an Epic that is equivalent in function from 2017 to one that we've just pulled off of our shelves now. But the conversations I have with these gigantic companies that are looking at, they're talking UNS, they're talking, how do I bring together my entire organization globally? It's as simple as this, are getting this architecture right. And it's as simple, it is that simple if you use Ignition Edge. The reason being that each one of these factories is going to be the same, yet very different, right? That's just how they are. So in each of these, by defining what your smallest unit of IO, of Ignition Edge is going to be on your factory floor, is it that factory? Is it that line? Is it that one product line? Once you're able to decide that, the architecture in your SCADA or in your entire UNS really writes itself. This is edge-driven SCADA, meaning that when you've defined all of those variables, all of those tags here that you're talking to, whether it's physically to a temperature sensor or to a motor, Modbus device, Siemens PLC, Rockwell PLC, at the moment that it publishes its Sparkplug B to this broker, it's brought along with it all that contextualized data to where, from your perspective screen, you're just looking at all of the devices that are out there are publishing their data, and you're subscribing to them. And what that allows you to do is simply buy more Opto boxes with Ignition Edge in them, and those new sites will automatically publish themselves to the broker, automatically be available in perspective. Not like the old way that you had to create scripts of how to copy and paste your tags across different site locations. So it really is that simple. The issue that many have is just they're so used to thinking the older way, that you need to write this all down, manually enter them, and try to figure out every circumstance, when instead, as long as you get that first unit down, the expansion of that is quite simple. Here are a couple of real examples in which we're looking at thousands of different Opto devices throughout the world and in different functions. You're looking at oil and gas, you're looking at retail, you're looking at mining, in which that has happened. So the reason that you use Opto 22 there is because, yeah, you can find a really small PLC that'll talk to a temperature, a humidity, a current transformer, or that'll talk to a pressure sensor, control different valves. But now one that also speaks Ignition Edge, now one that also has cybersecurity, that you can segment those networks and you're sure that there's no default username and password way to get in. That's where the value is. It's all in one ruggedized packaged. And remember, this is from a company that manufactures hardware, much of it with a lifetime warranty. So with that, not sure if there's anything there you wanted to add, Ed, before I get into the 6 reasons of why we're better together.
No, I think what you've highlighted there, Renee, hits home very well. The idea of what you mentioned before, of having that sort of hub and spoke architecture. You mentioned that one location to many locations. We're seeing quite a demand for industry who might not necessarily be the same plant, but different services across a business, from water treatment to energy to production. These are different applications, and sometimes they just want to have them segregated because for security reasons or whatever it might be. So having that ability to connect with a hardware like Opto that can talk many protocols, bring the data back, use Ignition Edge as that contextualization model you referred to. And by publishing through Spark-Plug-B, you almost have like a self-aware system, because as soon as Spark-Plug-B is published, with the broker and those subscribing to data can then see this data come back in real life. And I've seen examples in you too, Renee, that people who've plugged in a Spark-Plug-B node have seen dynamic changes in their SCADA screens because the new asset's been added to their screens. And that helps to minimize the amount of, I suppose, engineering. And also, like you mentioned, the old way of having that process in place. Today's world, we are wanting to get data faster, quicker, contextualized, take advantage of further upstream skills and further upstream solutions that can help deliver even better results for our customers.
Excellently said, Ed. So with that, we're going to move to the 6 reasons of why Opto 22 and Inductive are better together. And this is directly from the Inductive Automation website. There's 6 reasons for it, and we'll just go down the list. One is seamless compatibility. With each of our Epic systems and most of our RIOs have Ignition and Ignition Edge built in. As you can see here, you select which one you'll be running and you'll turn it on. This one has a version 8.121, but we're up to 8.1, I forget which one, and 8.3. So you have both options now that are delivered directly from this device. It's already there. All you need to do is license it or run it in your 2-hour trial mode. And if you're running the Epic, you have panel there that you can try directly as well. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is cybersecurity from the ground up. Upon your request, we'll give you an IT survey. Our department simply got overwhelmed with all these IT surveys from Fortune 500 companies saying, can it do this? And can it do that? And how does it, how's LDAP configuration work? So we saw that most of the questions were the same. So we developed one survey, hand that out to IT departments. And that's so far had a 100% hit rate of answering every question that they have. The reason for it is when we designed this hardware from the ground up in 2017, it was cybersecurity from the ground up. You talk to IT, ICS, OT, ICS, cybersecurity firms, the ones like Dragos, Clarity, Nozomi. You speak to all of them, and the top reasons that OT networks get broken into are default username and passwords and non-segmented networks. So, of course, we knew we wanted that. And then we kept adding items on the list that were equally important. LDAP configuration. So that means that this device can now be managed by IT. And so, and far gone are the days of calling IT. I need this many static IP addresses, and it's going to have all of these ports open and all of this access. Those days are gone. It can now be managed via LDAP. Secondly, it has VPN, open VPN capabilities built in as well. So you have that secure remote in access, and you can lock down as many of the ports, segment ports, port forward, all point and click configure, depending on, of course, your level of credentials that you have with the system. So that's with that cybersecurity built in. Next one is built upon legacy, meaning that most of the projects that all of us are working on, they're typically not greenfield projects. The majority are brownfield projects that have been there for a while, might not even have a Ethernet network in some cases, might still have some pneumatics, some PLC 5s in the corner over here, but at the same time, they have this new data lake they want to get information to. So that's normal, that's typical. So in that case, just wanted to show that because of all of Opto 22 features, if you're looking at the ISA 95 model, because of all of our features, it just depends on how many of our features you're using on how high or low it is on the ISA 95 model, but it's built for that. We can talk to those sensors, 420s, PLCs, databases even directly. We can connect Wi-Fi, Ethernet, fiber, etc. Next is its capability to be edge programmable. This platform is completely open. We're not locked down that you have to use CODESYS, that you have to use Linux, that you have to use command line on Linux, or you have to use C++ or our ecosystem, pack control. Pack control we continue to use just because all of our products have had it since inception. CODESYS is the one that appears to be the most popular, especially when using it with ignition. The Epic becomes a CODESYS real-time control PLC with full IO capabilities, and ignition allows it to be also that edge device that contextualize that data. So this is full real-time control of our cores, but other options are we have many clients that use Ignition Edge, and then they don't use Pack Control or CODESYS. They do all of their programming on Python. They'll do all of their programming in C++, and we're absolutely okay with that. We're just providing the platform, and the customer gets to decide. We help them decide which avenue is going to be most useful for them. Then it's about connecting and communicating. Ed alluded to all the different drivers that we have built in. Yes, with Ignition Edge, we have all those drivers included, but we also have different drivers that we can talk to directly to the CAN bus protocol, for just to give you one example. Out of the Ethernet ports, and one of the case studies you'll see here, on many of them, we're talking IO link, directly to IO link masters. So you, this morning, I was having a conversation with others that are talking to torque tools. So for all of these, we have a method, we have references that will talk to any of the OT ports, any of the OT protocols. We have 50+ years of experience. We've run across them all. And lastly, the sixth reason is our supported by experts. So we have locally there, as Ivor here representing Binford Tech, they're out of Sydney. Here are their office phone numbers for sales and support. Their email, that's your first line of defense there. You also always have USA support through these email addresses, these phone numbers, even through the chat. Our chat is operated by real humans, real engineers, 95% of them in Temecula, California, Southern California. We have 2 that live in Texas and then 1 that lives in Frankfurt, Germany. But these are the people that are managing that chat. It's a real chat. And I think I say it so passionately because of all those chats that aren't real chats that I think waste our time. And that's all I'm going to say about them. We also have we saw how well Inductive University worked, and we wanted to copy that. We wanted to give that access to our customers. So you go to training.opto22.com. You can get fully certified. I believe we're up to 62 courses now that you have to complete to become fully certified on Opto 22, and you get a certificate. If you do the premium factory training, if you come to Opto and do that, you get 24 educational credits for doing that in person. So with that, now we're going to move to the case study portion of this. Now, why we're better together, and we're going to talk about 2 case studies. The first one being data centers. So in the data center world, that's a very, pardon the pun, a very hot industry right now. And with that, we have one of our good customers who was a pioneer really in liquid cooling. So as they're talking to their end users years ago, this was before ChatGPT, they talking about liquid cooling and facility cooling, and everyone was saying, well, why are you trying to make this? Why are you trying to redesign it? You know, we already have air cooling. The air cooling works. Everything's fine. Then ChatGPT happens, and all this scaling up of all the new high density chips, all the energy consumption, all the heat dissipation is necessary. And now it makes sense to everyone while you should be at liquid cooling. And they're one of the experts here of not only taking liquid cooling and putting it directly on the chip, but the reason I'm showing you this boat here, this barge, that's a floating data center. So they wanted to show that their data center, besides running it very efficiently and cooling, they also wanted to have it be cooled by seawater. But this is a closed loop system, so it's not consuming seawater. This is actually brackish river water that goes out to the sea. But so that's one extra challenge. A third challenge was that they were going to do this in California. California being world famous for their environmental standards, and me being at this location, knowing how difficult it is to move in for a business to move in any direction without having to fill up numerous piles of paperwork, as well as meet several regulations for this. So the fact that they could do it with seawater in California, closed loop system, data cooling, and they were an operator before they were a manufacturer of OEM cooling systems. That is one of the reasons we really love Nautilus data centers. So here, and if you saw maybe something on the news feed from Inductive Automation about the Data Center Discovery Day, it was this project that was led off that day in Washington, D.C. This was 2 weeks ago today, in which it was presented that it is these facility cooling units that, depending on how much you want to cool, that's simply how many skids that you have that you're adding. So each one of these skids has an Opto 22 epic inside. And inside that epic, you have all the ability to control this machine, as well as contextualize that data and then publish it upstream to a full ignition platform. So here we see what it looks like inside one of those panels, and we see that it is an epic that is running CODESYS, that is running ignition, that's controlling physical I/O directly, as those I/O points land directly on the front face of this unit. But also, if you look here, you have an IFM I/O link master. And so over Ethernet, we're communicating with that I/O link master as well. So it has all that capability, and what we're telling and what we're guiding several of these data center, just any skid manufacturer, but in this case, data center skid manufacturers, if you put Opto inside and if you put Ignition Edge inside, imagine being able to tell your customer, if you buy a skid from me instead of my competitor, if you buy it from me, as soon as you turn it on, it's going to publish and publish all of its data to your SCADA. And if you purchased it from anyone else, you'd have to go out, discover it, give it a name, find all of its tags. So imagine now you're making skids, you're making products because of Opto and Ignition Edge built in that are edge driven. So the edge, it's what's pushing that information up to SCADA, not SCADA deciding and going down and trying to find what all those tags will be. It's really powerful, and I would say it's a new way of doing it. But for those in the ignition community, it's not a new way of doing it. It's something we've been talking about for a while, and it's part of the basis for how to efficiently create a unified namespace as well. So that's one for data centers. And a second,
You're right here, Renee. Just staying on data centers just for a minute.
yes.
We are seeing, and you are seeing, an explosion of data centers obviously growing across the world. The proliferation and the ability for these structures to be built quickly is the key to their business being successful. The faster, the easier you can then, like you mentioned, build these skids or whatever it might be with infrastructure ready. So when it arrives to site, like you mentioned, you turn it on and it connects straight away into infrastructure. So it minimizes the site acceptance testing, the factory acceptance testing is done, and it's done in a certain process that when it gets to site, that means that the data center can be up and running faster because you've done the pre-engineering work, you've created the technology stack at the edge, like you're mentioning here, that fits into the technology stack of the data center to give that a faster method to be turned on as a business and start generating income as a data center. So I see there's a lot of value in what you're presenting here.
Another one you see is as soon as you turn it on, you can see if everything is operating. So you can make any changes locally before you send the skid off to the customer site, where it's infinitely more expensive to try and fix there.
Yes.
So thanks for that, Ed.
Right.
And the next one is one of Ed's expertise here, and that's in mining. So in mining, this is specifically for a gold mine here in the United States. This is really interesting because they're standardized on other PLCs, on other edge devices, on other SCADA software, but it took one RIO, it took one of these, and it took a 2-hour license for this mine to see what the power was in the tech stack of Opto 22 CODESYS. and full ignition. So what was the application? This is an underground mine. This is a gold mine. There's several levels to it. And if any of these dewatering pumps were to fail at 12 hours, they're up to your nose. So this is a very critical part that must be maintained. Not only that, each of these pumps range in price from 45,000 to 65,000 US dollars each. And they, eh, of course, one thing is failing, one thing is replacing them, but it was all controlled by a float switch. So sometimes you're running them dry, sometimes you're pulling in rocks. So what the point of it was is let me put a RIO at this. Let me put a RIO at this site. Let me talk to some of the instruments and then take that data, publish it up to Ignition. Well, what they realized was, wait, this RIO, it has a USB port in it. It has an extra Ethernet port in it. And the VFDs that they were buying all had like analytical capabilities in it. And it's just, just a typical VSD they were using that had that capability. So they started pulling in that data as well. Now they have all of this capability to do some predictive analytics on that device. So as they were evaluating, as they were testing this out, they realized, wait, we can get much more than just the sensor data. We can get all this predictive data from the VFDs. And in it, because the RIO also runs CODESYS, they were continuing to run that CODESYS. And actually, here's a good time to answer the question that came in on Q&A that says, how do you communicate with Rockwell controllers and with Opto and Ignition? Well, of course, you have the core drivers that you can use. That's one way of doing it. We also have CODESYS built into the unit, and that's what they used in this case. In this case, they used CODESYS and an Ethernet IP scanner library that has the ability to talk to those. It has both the scanner and adapter, has Profinet, has CAN bus, J1939, a host of different licenses, BACnet, a host of different licenses. So those are two ways, besides using the core drivers from Ignition, also using these single libraries from CODESYS to be able to do that. So that's how they pulled that data in, and in CODESYS then publish it up to Ignition. You have that capability also running a perspective to be able to create those perspective panels to be used both locally right next to where these pumps are located, as well as having the same screen back up at the office. So here's what that looks like. And that's just one RIO device that's connected separately to another cabinet with the VSD, pulling in that data directly to IO. It's doing the PLC control, contextualizing the data, publishing it up, and now you're at over 100 of these units at this mine just performing this function. And they're just sprinkling RIOs throughout the facility, making a pretty incredible project for that systems integrator that started with just, I'm going to pull in these IO points, to now they're in dewatering systems. They're in the large, like the traffic displays that they needed physical e-stops and physical IO, because, in giant mines, the communication cables are always being run over or destroyed. So you're able to have some local control now with the RIO, as well as some warnings for explosive areas. Something neat, I don't know if I told you, Ed, they're using these RIOs on the giant earth moving equipment. And because they have access to the Linux, the Linux OS, if you request it, they're looking at the decibel signals between the different Wi-Fi dongles in each of these RIOs. And now they're able to do collision avoidance depending on how good their signal is to the other earth mover. So that's one that we're going to show. And actually, this is a good time to talk about this project specifically, because this is going to be featured at ICC. So ICC this year, September 22nd to 24th, Sacramento, California. That's in the Inductive Community Conference. And, you see Ed there. We missed each other last time, but we're going to be, if you look at it, the first day, we're going to be talking about specifically this project in great detail and how that was used. Now you're using the radar sensors different control to the VSDs. And as I mentioned before, it was the CODESYS and Ignition Edge that was doing that. Anything you'd like to add on mining or this topic, Ed?
I think what you mentioned about is a technology that Opto 22 provides beyond what a PLC does, is that ability to connect, again, like you mentioned, Linux, iOS, and do some interesting, I suppose, projects without being limited by the technology. And that's what we face when you start looking at what you talked about, legacy devices. These sort of more modern technologies, Renee, just allow you to do more and not be limited. You talked about the CODESYS, the different ways the IDEs can implement, the different protocols you can connect with, and the fact that it's robust, it's fit for purpose for these sort of applications. I know. I look at Opto 22, and it's like you can install it and know it's going to be fine for years in that sort of application without losing the technology behind it. As you mentioned, free upgrades. You can that product will get better even after you buy it by by upgrading and updating it, because we have to be, as both of us are able to provide the technology our customers want. So we need to have that technology and not limit it to those customers. That's a really good solution.
Yeah, great. Well said. And with that, I'm going to move. Before I talk to you about the next culture and wrap this up, I want to show you a live demo here. If you look in the chat, I just sent you a link to our Ignition Cloud Edition demo. So if you look at that cloud demo, you're going to look here over my shoulder. This Epic device here is listed. If you go to Las Vegas is where I'm located. For some reason, I can't read Las Vegas today. Oh, there it is. So if you click on Las Vegas, Nevada, 702, you are now on a page served up by Perspective on Opto 22's Ignition Cloud Edition. And on Ignition Cloud Edition, these are the different epics that we have configured and publishing to our cloud broker all over the world. So in this one being, for this one being here live on Ignition, you can go ahead and click on Las Vegas, click on any of this, and be able to even go to the Ignition Edge panel to be able to, if you click on that button, be able to control it and get it to beep. So any of you care to do that, there you go. That's one of you. So, and of course, this is something that Binford Tech loves to do in the middle of the night for me, just for fun. So I encourage you all to do it as well. But this just shows clearly that it doesn't need to be one platform. There's not just one way to solve your issues, but with the tech stack of Opto, Ignition Edge, and Ignition, you can solve great deal of the different IT, OT projects that you have out there. And so that we hope that this was very useful for you there. Don't make me have to go in there and shut off the IO. I'll do it. So looks like, all right, unfortunately, the only way to turn that off is I have to go in and should have known Australia was going to do this, you guys. So let me go and, all right, disable buzzer. Try that. So for our next webinar, which we're going to be having here, we're going to talk about one very specific application. That is an application in Tasmania on aquaculture. So just to give you a little taste of what that is going to be, this is what that application is going to look like, with an Epic controller that's doing all of the different controls, that also has Ignition built in, and that ability to remotely control various different assets that are spread off on the coast. So with that, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to ask Ed if there are any closing words you'd like to on this, or if there are any questions, to go ahead and ask those questions. Meanwhile, Ed and Ivor, if you have any closing words, this would be the time to do it.
Well, Renee, I think where we are in an industry, the benefits of having platforms that enable people to continue developing, coming up with interesting ideas, and without that limitation we talked about, and then having also the fact that it's a product or a business that's been around for many years, that gives the confidence of that sustainability. going forward. So I'm really looking forward to the next series of webinars we have here, and also looking forward to see how those case studies that just highlight some of the key differentiators that can be done when marrying up these two technologies. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ed. And with that, Ivor, any closing words from your end?
Yeah, thanks, Renee. Thanks, Ed. Thanks for the webinar. That was really informative and educational. I really enjoyed it myself. That was really, really good. Thank you. And yeah, as Renee said, we are the Australia's official Opto distributor. So, and that's something we take very seriously. So that includes in our deep knowledge base, technical support, and local sales. We do obviously stock the whole range of Opto group products. So yeah, if you have any questions, please reach out. I'd love to chat. Reach out to Binford or me myself. I think, Renee, I think you've left my email somewhere.
Yes, I'm going to share it with everyone.
Yeah, cool. Yes, I'd love to touch base with you all and answer any questions you have. We are also Australia's leading CODESYS and IO specialists with a broad capability across all PLC brands and automation technology.